Origin Jazz Home Reaction. This is where is Russia's missing Su-57 stealth fighter? It's about your task and purpose. Stealth fighter. Is this the newer like F-35 like plane? Yeah, I don't know the number. This is the first Su video I'm watching. Sukhoi. It's also Russian, I guess, company. Just like how MiGs are Russian. I'm guessing those are two different companies. It's different names, designated. I don't know. Am I right to think that these Sukhois are a newer thing? Because I've never heard of the Sukhoi from the like past time, like how make Fox bad and things like that around that time. I don't know. I just never heard of it. I don't know. So yeah, Sukhois apparently feel as like more capable Russian planes or something. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Ukraine has some. It's just weird, man. But like Russia versus Ukraine, Ukraine's still using like Russian equipment to fight Russia. Just like hindsight, Russia would be like, what the fuck? Imagine one of your plane taking you down, and then like, why the fuck? It's just weird, right? Especially if it's a newer plane, it's like I should have known better type of shit. This is weird, but yeah. That's what it's fun. Remember, people flag prediction. Do follow and subscribe. So I know which videos to react to more. Check out the reaction. This link in the season. Follow me on Instagram if you want. It's I just started it just 1 or 2 days ago. Link in the season. And yeah, that's what it.
Russia claims their Su-57 multi-role fighter jet is a state-of-the-art 5th-generation stealth aircraft. But wait a second, have we ever actually observed the Su-57 out in public or in actual combat before?
What?
Or is this just a Russian T-14 tank with wings
that's
never actually deployed to the front line? Or is there simply a misunderstanding out there about the correct type of tactics and doctrine that you're supposed to use with the Su-57, and it's purposely not supposed to fight close to the front lines? And I found a video on YouTube where a Ukrainian blew up an SU-57 with a Stinger missile in a military simulation game, so that's basically journalism, right? That looks credible to me. I'm your average infantryman, Chris Cappy. Let's find out.
Oh my god, did the news guys said this is real, and then it found out that this is like simulation? Is that what happened? Because that just pisses me off at whole nother level. That's not a mistake. That's point blank fucking lying. Otherwise, why would task and purpose guy say that that's journalism? Clearly, that guy basically said, "Oh, this is what happened." Oh, wait a minute, it was a simulation. That pisses me off, man.
The truth about Russia's Su-57. The work for what would eventually become the SU-57 began way back in 1979, when the Soviet Union outlined a need for a next-generation fighter aircraft to enter service in the 1990s. They launched the I-90 program in the 80s with the aim of developing a multi-role fighter with substantial ground attack capabilities to replace the MiG-29 and Su-27 that were in frontline tactical aviation service at the time. The MFI and the LFI. These programs were designed to make a lighter fighter.
Multifunctional, I'm guessing there's the F-35 thing, right? Lightweight fighter project, LFI.
Jet with respectable air-to-ground capabilities. But wait, slow down for all the slow-learning soldiers like myself in the back of the class. What the heck is a multi-role fighter? BAE Systems labels it as a swing-role aircraft, quote, an aircraft that can accomplish both air-to-air and air-to-surface roles on the same mission, and swing between these roles instantly, offering true flexibility. This reduces cost, increases effectiveness, and enhances interoperability with allied forces. So pilots can take on all different types of enemies, generals can send one aircraft for all jobs, and the military-industrial complex gets to save money. Everyone wins. A Soviet company called
I'm guessing that is what F-35 is. And that's the thing also felt, and this feels like more like an advanced next generation thing, like multi-purpose thing, all-rounder, all-in-one. Kind of makes sense when you think about it. Because in the past, like, you have one type of plane because they can do one type of plane. There was no compromise. If you make it all-rounder, just like, just all weird and can't do anything right. Because of the newer technologies, sure, why not all-rounder? And it works. Obviously, F-35 is great. But I don't like that element, like, a military general can just send one plane to do all the job. It's just like you're still going to come across, like, fuel issue and all this issue. Like, if there are two jobs, they will require two independent things. Like, it depends on the job. But one plane doing two jobs, like how you going to get the fuel, how you going to get the firepower right and everything. F-35 feels great because it's smarter. That's the only way I can describe it. I've just put all the image of what type of F-35 generation, 5th generation plane should be. And it just put in this like F-35B especially, this whole image of how it is and how smart it is. How it works, like it's literally next generation. Because previous planes feels like just simple tools. Newer planes feels like multi-purpose tools in a different way. F-35 basically. So yeah, but just doing two jobs, I don't know. I'm guessing Su-57 is supposed to be similar.
Was selected to work on the MFI, and they began developing a MiG-144 aircraft, 1.44.
And MiG is also made by McCoyans. I don't know. It's the same people make Su. I'm confused.
Had a design philosophy of quantity over quality, to put it oversimplified. When the LFI program fell apart, the Sequoia company decided to fund their own work. They began developing technologies for a next-generation fighter, the SU-37, which eventually became known as the SU-47.
A man by the name of Pavel Sukhoi was creator of the company. He had a design philosophy of quality over quantity, which actually stuck with the company even
McCoy, whatever is MiG, and Sukhoi is Su. Is that it?
After he passed away. And so this new aircraft would lean into fancy technology and new experimental supersonic fighter jet technologies.
But before we get into that, I want to tell you about my partner Ridge Wallet. They designed a brand new product that helps forgetful people like myself, called the Carbon Clip or Money Clip for your AirTag attachment. It simply snaps to your wallet, and then you can use the Find My Network app to find the location of your Ridge wallet. I'm guilty of losing my wallet all the time, and then it gets stolen, and I end up with all kinds of weird charges on my credit card that are
That's
definitely
next
from the guy
level
that
shit.
stole my
Even
card
your wallet.
and not from me in any way, I swear. These slim, sleek wallets are able to carry up to 12 cards, and they're made from materials that prevent hackers from gaining access to your credit cards.
I'm gonna lie, I didn't even know that thing apparently, but it is.
Stuffed receipt bags bulging out of your grandpop's pocket. This is the perfect time to grab one of these because Ridge is currently running a summer sweepstakes with the chance.
I know this is a promotional video, not why am I reacting to a promotional video, but I'll talk about anything that makes sense to me. Yeah, okay, so this Ridge wallet thing makes more sense nowadays because I don't remember. Like, I have money in my pocket, you know, my wallet, but not the most of the time because who the fuck uses hard cash nowadays, right? We have something called UPI here. I don't know if other countries have that or not. Unified Payment Interface. It's like different. It just uses your, you know, bank account, ATM thing just to directly, just use your phone, basically scan things and just directly transfer money like that. You don't need to use any kind of money. Things like that, basically.
To win a brand new upgraded Hennessy Ford Bronco or $75,000 if you prefer cash. So you can get 10 bonus entries and 10% off your purchase when you use my link in the description, ridgewallet.com/taskandpurpose, and by using code TASKANDPURPOSE. The jet also incorporated the use of composite materials, sophisticated fly-by-wire control systems, and new airframe technologies. Both of these projects were delayed due to a lack of funding after the fall of the Soviet Union. Prototypes were built, but the program was eventually canceled due to high costs. Neither plane would enter service into the Russian Air Force. But here's where we start to see how the company Sequoia was seen as the more fancy aircraft designer. They were the top shelf aircraft designers. They have a reputation for being the designers of aircraft that are meant to achieve air superiority. This mentality flew in the face of old Soviet Cold War doctrine, which stressed quantity. The Russian Ministry of Defense eventually launched a new fighter jet development program.
Yeah, imagine that. Oh, I forgot for a second what Soviet Union whole Soviet thing means. Right? Just like in Soviet Union time, obviously this is like newer thing, but imagine that like like, you know, like Lockheed type of mentality, like, you know, quality, just premium thing and everything. It's just like you do know we are Soviet Union. You do know what we do to this bourgeois, you know, better people. That's the whole communist thing is, right? Obviously, I'm pretty sure Sukhoi was like, you know, it's all this is newer thing. Sukhoi 57, like post. You know, collapse of the Soviet Union, but still, during the Soviet Union, this would be really weird.
In 1999, called the PAC-FA, or Prospective Aeronautical Complex of Frontline Air Forces. This program was a little smaller in scale. The new fighter jet would weigh less and split the difference between the MiG-29 and SU-27 in terms of physical size. The SU-57 would be nearly 66 feet long with a 46-foot wingspan, and it ended up weighing more than both of the other jets. This new jet was intended to be a stealth fighter jet that would serve as the basis for a family of stealth combat aircraft. This stealth aircraft would also be a multi-role fighter.
A few companies bid on the project, and Sukhoi eventually won out.
They won because they had planned to do a lot of their work under one roof, their own roof. And they had proven to be self-sufficient during the 1990s by exporting their SU-27 aircraft to China, Vietnam, Ethiopia, and Indonesia.
By 2002, Sukhoi began working on the SU-57 aircraft, known internally as the T-50.
And their conceptual design for the SU-57 was approved by the Russian Ministry of Defense in 2004. Work began, government funding was granted, and then came the first of many delays. The delays and problems began almost immediately in production. This thing turned out to be like Firefly, but for aircraft development. The original
One thing I realized about Russia is that the GDP issue, money issue, can be felt a lot. Right? Their country not making that much money because a lot of country wants to do something. They might even have money to do it, but just don't know how to do it, right? It's not easy to just make shit, right? You need to know how to do it. That's why espionage happens all the time. Russia is one of the countries that can actually do shit, right? Making next generation jet, making this, making that, right? They've been like that for decades. So only thing that, like really pulls them back is that they don't have much money. I mean, obviously, communistic doctrine was going to have a problem with that. And even today, they might have some similar kind of like mentality. And obviously, capitalism is the one that makes a lot of money. So US is all obviously overflowing. But Russia is not. And you can see with all these delays and shit, probably money problem.
Maiden flight of the SU-57 was scheduled to take place around 2007, but didn't end up happening until 2010. By 2011, the aircraft had its first supersonic flight, but then came the bad news. The 5 original prototypes didn't have adequate fatigue life. This meant that there were structural cracks that had formed in the airframe during testing, and there were problems with the engines. One prototype suffered a compressor stall before takeoff in 2011 air show outside of Moscow. In 2014, another prototype suffered damage as a result of an engine fire.
How the fuck does that happen in this like next generation state-of-the-art jet plane? You would never think of a military thing having this kind of issue. Sure, like Blackbird, but that was like reaching the limit of shit, right? If you're gonna spend in billions and billions of dollars just to develop something, developing cracks is not the one thing you want to hear.
After landing, it was around this time that Russia also invaded Crimea, and so they faced increased sanctions that affected both oil prices and their military budget. It also affected their ability to acquire advanced components.
That's what I was saying, man.
This specifically
okay, not everything is in Russia, right? And if you have sanctions, and I guess it's going to affect from a lot of places, where you're going to get materials from. But then again, they don't have problem with China, and China does have a lot of materials, right? Even the rarest materials can be found there.
The SU-57 program hard. Russia had originally planned to partner with India in developing a version of the SU-57 for export, but India started having doubts around this time and eventually pulled out of the partnership completely in 2018. To make matters worse, an SU-57 crashed in 2019 inside of Russia due to either a flight or engine control system malfunction. There were conflicting reports on what brought the plane down, but the pilot was able to safely eject.
Setting the program back even further was Sukhoi's CEO, Igor Ozar, resigned after that incident.
It also had to do with the fact that a passenger jet with 41 passengers perished when an Aeroflight Sukhoi Superjet 100 made an emergency landing earlier that year. So there was a bunch of problems, just a constellation of issues. Russia originally planned to build at least 50 of the SU-57 by 2020, but they reduced that number significantly and ended up ordering just 12 in 2015. They opted to focus on the development of cheaper 4th-generation aircraft like the SU-35S and the SU-30SM instead. In 2018, they ordered 2 SU-57s to be delivered in 2019 and 2020 respectively, and started producing ammo for the plane in bulk. They even claimed to have tested a couple of SU-57s in Syria in combat, and reportedly successfully fired a cruise missile in combat. By 2020, the first delivery of SU-57s to the Russian Aerospace Forces finally took place. 4 more were delivered in May 2022, and another batch of 4 were supposedly delivered in December of 2022. And here is where we sit today. not sure if Russia has even used the plane in Ukraine. The Sukhoi SU-57, or as NATO refers to it, the Felon, it can achieve speeds of Mach 2 and fly supersonic without afterburners. It's a super maneuverable aircraft on all axes. It achieves this with its KSU-50 flight control system and its canted thrust vector nozzles. This allows the aircraft to perform high-angle attack maneuvers, like the Bell maneuver, as well as flat rotations with little altitude loss. The SU-57 has two...
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, it's a stealth fighter, man. Even if they had used it in Ukraine war, how are you going to know it, right? So that's the problem with all the accounts of war, right? Like, how, like, T-14 makes sense. Like, it's a tank. How are you going to miss it? There's going to be a count of that. But stealth jet, I mean, they might use it. Nobody knows it if they use it or not, and there you go.
Side weapons bays, which carry 6 hardpoints and 6 external hardpoints for non-stealth missions.
Do you know what will happen?
That would require more lethality. When it comes to taking out enemy aircraft, it can carry 4 R-37M BVRs, which stand for Beyond Visual Range Missiles, and 2 R-74M2, which are short-range missiles in the side bays. It can also carry the R-37 hypersonic air-to-air missile for extremely long ranges. For bombing ground targets, it has a nasty bite. The SU-57 has main bays that can carry precision-guided bombs, the KAB 250 kilogram and the KAB 500 kilogram bombs. Internally, the KH-38M air-to-ground missile, the KH-35U anti-ship missile, and the KH-58U, aka the Kilter, is an anti-radiation missile which is typically used for objectives like radars and radios as it locks onto those radio emission sources.
Ooh, really?
Finally, the SU-57 is also said to be capable of...
Yeah, we're talking about jets and shit, but how much missile technology has evolved? Damn. How many type of equipment, like even with the ammos, right? All the type of ammos with the tank video, like how the tank are supposed to be penetrated and things. All the different type of ammo just being used just to penetrate a tank. All the type of thought that goes inside. Damn. We use all the type of clever shit just to like try to kill each other apparently. That's where innovation, upgrades, right? Every time when it comes to defense, that's where it goes, which is insane. Right? All the technology that like people, that's why all the billions and billions of dollars are getting, used in defense. Because way too much shit to keep up with, right? And you have to constantly make sure that it works so you don't get caught off guard.
Nuclear weapons with the KH-47M2, Kinzel or Dagger, or by NATO's nickname, the Killjoy, which is a name that makes a lot of sense. So far the SU-57 is very maneuverable. Some say it's even more maneuverable than the F-35. But it does this at a cost. Russia states, or shall we say claims, that it has a range of 2,000 kilometers and even a Mach 12 speed that it can perform evasive maneuvers at all stages of its flights. It's fitted with a single...
Did you say Mach 12?
Claims that it has a range of 2,000 kilometers and even a Mach 12 speed that...
Mach 12. Is he talking about 12 times the speed of like Mach 12? What? Wait a minute. Okay, I don't even know what the Mach 12 even means, but it has a Mach 2 speed. Is this some... I tried to Google Mach 12, but I don't even know what the fuck that is, but okay.
It can perform evasive maneuvers at all stages of its flights. It's fitted with a single-barrel 30mm cannon with 150 shots on the side next to the pilot. It has a firing rate of 1,500 rounds per minute. In fact, it's said to be one of the SU-57's strengths. Its ability to carry an impressive 7,500 kilograms or 16,500 pounds of munitions.
Okay.
In other words, it's fast, it's agile, and it can launch powerful missiles. And it's got some of the best avionics systems of any Russian aircraft. The SU-57 took a long time to develop, and there aren't many in service, but reportedly Russia has used them in their war on Ukraine, according to their state-run media. Just like how they claim they've used T-14 tanks. A few weeks into Russia's war in Ukraine, Russian state-run TASS news agency ran reports from an anonymous source that Russia was using SU-57s in the conflict. In January 2023, the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense Intelligence reported that Russian aerospace forces had almost certainly used SU-57s to conduct missions against Ukraine. The United Kingdom intelligence made 3 key points here. They pointed out that the jets were likely used in long-range air-to-air or air-to-surface missile strikes launched from within Russian airspace into Ukraine. They provided satellite images of 5 SU-57.
I don't get it. Why do you need jets to do that if you're going to do the long range one? If you're already in Russia, don't you have any other means of delivering rockets?
Aircrafts at their airbase as evidence that these aircrafts were likely in use. There is some doubt about the significance of this and whether it means Russia has actually used the planes against Ukraine, as a spokesman for Ukraine's Air Force even went on the record to state that they had no evidence that Russia had used the Su-57 to strike Ukraine. The third piece of intelligence offered
just because they had no evidence doesn't mean they didn't, right? It's a stealth plane. It's supposed to, attack from the distance. You wouldn't have an evidence, would you?
By the United Kingdom was that Russia was highly likely prioritizing avoiding reputational damage that would come with the loss of an Su-57 over Ukraine, which is why they hadn't operated the jets outside of...
I think that's bullshit, right? Just like, I'm not saying that they are not thinking that, but I'm thinking that thinking is bullshit. Because you already have like bad reputation by now, right? With this kind of dragging war, it's not already helping your reputation. So at this point, might as well use all tools you have, right?
Russian airspace. So what's the holdup? The capabilities of the jet allowed them to use it in a standoff role, firing air-to-ground missiles from outside enemy air defense range. Why risk the Su-57 in close quarters combat if there's no need and that doesn't play to its advantages? On one hand, it makes sense that Russia wouldn't want to risk losing one of their brand new jets so soon. Practically speaking, they don't have a lot of them. The most liberal estimate for how many operational Su-57s they could have in service is about 10. They built 2 initially, lost 1 that may or may not have been replaced. They unveiled 4 in May and 4 more in December 2022. Another 10 new Su-57 airframes might be delivered in 2023. This would give Russian Air Force the ability to have a full squadron of 24 Su-57s by early 2024 potentially. Some critics have pointed out that the 4 jets that they added in May were only pictured in 2 of the photographs and from different angles and without tail numbers. So it's possible, maybe even likely, that they took photos of 2 Su-57s and claimed they had 4. This isn't all that unheard of. Supposedly the Soviet Union did the exact same thing in the 1980s with their Yak-38 Forager. Rumor has it that they would land the plane on their aircraft carrier, take it down below deck, repaint the number, and bring it back out onto the aircraft carrier. Based on all the tail number records, the aircraft carrier was carrying more fighter jets than it could actually carry. It's possible that the delay of the Su-57 has more to do with poor performing engines though. The original plan was to field the Izzadil 30 engine, but reports indicate they were forced to use the older Saturn AL-41 F1 instead. Point being, they may have as few as 6 of these jets, or they may have as many as 15. Either way, they don't have a lot to spare, and they're also still very expensive to manufacture at $35 million a pop. So it wouldn't necessarily make sense numbers-wise to risk losing one, especially since they already have more...
35 million? Isn't like F-35 cost like hundreds of millions? So I'm guessing it's not like F-35. F-35 has technology that it doesn't have, I'm guessing. If F-35 costs like hundreds of millions, right?
Su-35s, Su-30SMs, aircrafts on hand. Losing an Su-57 over enemy territory would have worse consequences than just losing respect though. More importantly, it would give NATO countries the chance to sift through that wreckage and potentially develop better ways to detect the aircraft or even steal stealth technology. NATO would be particularly interested in the Su-57's unique...
I mean, NATO has stealth technology, US has it, so NATO has it, I don't know what you're talking about. They have stealth technology, don't they?
Features like its radar arrangement and its sensor system. Russia plans on exporting these planes to other countries in order to be able to pay for its own fleet. If they lost an Su-57 in Ukraine, that would definitely negatively affect the export market for the aircraft. What's worse than that...
But at the same time, when they go to sell it, wouldn't they ask like, why didn't you use that in Ukraine if you're on war? Which means your plane might be shit. So this is like, I think it goes both ways, so it doesn't make sense not to use it. It's like, you're a bodybuilder, right? You pretend to be a fighter. Somebody punches you in the face and you don't punch back just because you don't want the world to know that you can't punch back that strongly. But at the same time, you didn't punch back. You just took the beating. So it doesn't really help you. That's kind of way.
Delays of the Su-57's production mean that India and Iran, who were once interested, may no longer even want it. On the flip side of that coin, if the plane is as good as Russia claims it is, then they should be able to use it effectively in Ukraine without much risk. But some experts say it's because the jet isn't actually very stealthy at all, especially compared with older 5th generation fighter jets like the F-22 or the F-35. The way to measure an aircraft's stealth is by its radar cross-section, or RCS. The RCS, to put it in layman's terms, is a way of measuring the amount of energy reflected by an aircraft back towards a receiver. The aim in designing a stealth aircraft is to design it with as few surfaces that will reflect radar as possible. You do this by hiding the largest components of the aircraft, namely the engines and its weapons. Where this fails, you can also use radar-absorbent materials to avoid detection. The SU-57 certainly does some things right for stealth. It allows its missiles to be carried within its airframe. Specifically, there are 2 tandem internal weapons bays, but there are also a few areas where it might fall short in terms of stealth. The SU-57's twin engines are mostly concealed from the front, but the back of the engines are still exposed. The SU-57 uses radar-absorbent materials to hide the engine face instead of the actual serpentine ducts like the ones on the F-22. And the good old folks on the internet were quick to point out that there were exposed Phillips head screws used on the SU-57 wing. These screws not only make the plane more detectable by radar, but they also give the entire plane that sleek, someone's uncle built this in their garage type of look. Although the production model probably fixed that. The SU-57 has an infrared search and track system, but it can't be used without exposing itself to radar. The way the system is designed, the IRTS system...
It's very, very smooth edges, right? I mean, look at the F-20, look at the F-35. They're like, what is it called? So radar, whatever, like zigzag type of edges just to make sure the radar doesn't, like, they can't do that, come on.
Faces backwards when it's turned off, but when it's turned on, flips back around, faces forward, forming a sphere, which is the worst shape or the best shape for your enemies for reflecting radar. Based on the numbers cited in its own patent, the SU-57 RCS is between 0.1 and 1 square meter. That's not horrible, but the F-22's RCS is about 100,000th of a square meter. In other words, by Russia's own figures, the Su-57 is...
Damn, shape-wise it kind of looks similar, but at the same time it's not. That's technology right there. Damn. That is insane, man.
1,000 times larger on radar than the F-22, possibly even 5,000 times larger.
Same thing with the China, right? It's like only US can do it.
Range, at least. That would make the Su-57 susceptible to many surface-to-air missile systems currently employed in Ukraine. So for now, if Russia's going to use their Su-57, it'll be to fire missiles at long range from within their own airspace. I got an email from a systems engineer working on the XM.
So it's...
M30, the replacement for the US Army's M2 Bradley. And he sent me some complaints that he sent to the IG. If you're interested in that video...
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it's not really stealth, right? If like anti-aircraft things can detect you and basically take you down, so you have to do it long distance. It's not stealth, is it? It's just long distance fighter. I don't know. Same thing with the fucking Chinese thing. Like it was like thousands of times like bigger crossings than F-22 and F-35. Like what the fuck, right? It's just weird. Alright, well, that was missing Su-57 stealth fighter because it's not much of stealth, I guess. It just feels weird, right? Like, you'd be surprised if, like, Russia suddenly, one day we realized that Russia had a fighter plane. We didn't know about it, which was, like, equal to F-22, F-35. Like, whoa, what the fuck? But yeah. I'm pretty sure F-35 cost, like, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. Is that the most of it? I don't know. Like, is that the costliest plane there is? I really don't know. But yeah, that's insane. I'm guessing, you know, Russia's still trying to keep like low budget thing. Maybe Russia can do it, but they don't want to put that much money into it or something. I have no idea. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't seen my other reactions to things like this, task and purpose and things like that, there's a link in the description. There's the end card right now. Follow me on Instagram if you want. I've just created it recently. The link is description also. And yeah, I'll see you next time.